Johnny Jimson cut the picture as we went. And when it was finished, I mean, UA was screaming for Prince because, you know, by then it was all out that the Beatles were great.
In between the shooting of the movie and the actual premiere, which I think was in July, there was a myriad of different stories about the Beatles. The Beatles were in the papers every day because don't forget that by now there had been an outbreak, an epidemic of Beatlemania in America as well as here, and in Australia and on the continent. So the thing had gone global. The slightest thing that happened made enormous headlines. There were twin premieres for the movie of course, in Liverpool. It had to be in Liverpool, and a West End of London. And it wasn't any great surprise that the media covered that to saturation, and it wasn't any great surprise to find that the fans turned out in amazing numbers, blocked the traffic in London's West End, blocked the traffic outside the Odeon Theatre in Liverpool. But what was a very pleasant surprise to all of us was that the film critics, the more serious film critics, as well as the kind of music writers, the pop writers, the rock journalists, that the serious film critics took the film seriously and began to talk in terms of the actual film value.
We had a screening in Liverpool, and I had a chat with Paul before, and he was very nervous about going to Liverpool. And I said, they're going to love it. They're going to love you. They're going to love the movie. And he said, we haven't been up there since we made it. And they may resent the fact that we're coming home so successful. And the others were worried about it. Somehow or other, they felt that their people would resent their success. And of course, they just loved them when they got there. It was almost impossible for me to predict the audience reaction to this movie. The Beatles had screaming fans whenever they performed in a concert. But that was in response to a live performance. And I didn't realize that the fans would respond the same way to them on film. But an early clue to the amount of enthusiasm from Beatle fans was the night of the performance for Princess Margaret in Piccadilly Circus, when there were thousands and thousands of people. And I was told it was like VE Day. And obviously when royalty attends a premiere of a film, there's a lot of protocol. It was such an exciting, happy period.
It was a wonderful premiere. People came, they shouted. We had worked very carefully that it was very important that the opening of the film would be that one chord, and then out of the blackness came them running down the street. And at the premiere, they had the mighty Wurlitzer organ of the London Pavilion, and a guy rose up and played Beatles hits on the mighty Wurlitzer organ, at which point the lights in the cinema dimmed, and the film is about to start, but he hadn't finished his song, so they took the sound off the film, so there was no chord, and people started running while he was still finishing off a few songs, and then slowly he descended, smiling and waving. So, you know, it started off well.
I think everybody was just kind of stunned by it because it was such an anti-Hollywood type movie. I mean, they didn't know Dick Lester really, and the style of this movie, the talking into the camera, the whole thing about it, the irreverence of it, all of it, and these kids themselves, who they'd heard of, obviously, was kind of stunned them because the movie is really a very unusual experience, and certainly breaks every rule that, you know, even the best of the Hollywood movies followed. Nobody disliked it, but nobody had expected what they saw.
Come here, you lot. Try to act with a bit of decorum. This is a posh place. We know how to behave. We've had lessons.
I'm sorry, sir. Members and invited guests only.
Aye, well,
Oh, yes.
It was a happy film. Everybody enjoyed it, even mums and dads. And there were a couple of Academy Award nominations. One was for Alan Owen, most deservedly, because he wrote the original script. The other was for me, rather undeservedly. But I was given an Academy Award nomination for my work in directing the music.
There was such an aura about them, and they had such an impact on everyone's lives that I think the exuberance just carried us on. And I was just lucky to be part of it. And because of it, I was sent a parchment scroll which I think you know the story. I was told that I was the father of MTV, and I wrote back and demanded a blood test.
Hard Day's Night is simply a classic example of what happens when enlightened management gives brilliant talent the ability to create.
I think the film actually widened the horizons of the Beatles. I mean, they'd been very successful from their small beginnings. They'd really conquered the world by this time. But the film set the seal on it because it brought them a wider audience, it brought them a wider range of ages, and made everyone realize that these weren't just fly-by-nights. They were great talent.